Welcome everyone to another episode of 10 Minute Poker Tips. I got a super special guest today, Andy Stacks Poker, high stakes, nosebleed, cash game poker player, also star of Game of Gold. Thank you, Andy, for coming on the show. Super excited to have you.
Thanks, Derek. Love the channel. Love the idea. 10-minute poker tips. Yeah, you hit me up and checked it out. And I thought it was a great idea. Give people like bite-sized information on things that I've learned along the way, along the journey of poker. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and I started the channel probably because I have a little bit of ADHD and I have trouble sitting through 20-minute videos. So I thought 10 minutes would be pretty good. But today, I think you have a really important topic in mind, which is poker life balance. And I feel like this is something that a lot of poker players should learn about because we all definitely grind a little bit too hard, probably throw away really valuable things in our life, like family, friends, relationships, and even some of our health sometimes. That's really super important to pay attention to, right? Poker can't be the all everything in our lives.
Thanks, Derek. Yeah, I think this topic is one that I especially think is important to talk about. And I'm happy to share. Before I start talking about it, I do want to say that it's important for me to talk about this topic in a way that's realistic as an ambassador for poker, especially for newer players like maybe in the Asian market that are just starting to become interested in poker. I think it's important for me to talk about it so that it's realistic, and that I'm not adding to the illusion of poker that poker could create for people. I think to start off, when we talk about balance is lost in poker because mainly when people see things on, whether it's social media or hear stories or they talk to their friends, there's so much poker content out there these days that's like almost oversaturated and people are painting themselves in a better light than the reality, and I think that creates some of the illusion that, causes a lot of the imbalance when people eventually dive in and then they realize not what they thought it was, especially with the ever-changing landscape of poker that's changing now. It's really easy to have a lack of balance. That comes with just the emotional toll from winning and losing and the ups and downs and feeling guilt and shame from losing. I know, especially for me, when I had the least amount of balance when I was just playing all the time and just really having big ups and downs financially for me and the toll that it would have on me. Even though I told myself how much balance is important to me, I think it's really easy for players to really get lost in the conquest of trying to win in poker and then just lose all balance. I think there's basically three things that, I mapped out. I thought about this in the last few days, how you can improve having more balance in life and then still having poker in your life, whether it's a hobby or it's your profession. First one I would say is striving for self-improvement. Doesn't matter whether it's, I think just any aspect of your life that you can search within yourself and you think could use improvement, try to become better at it. I think this is actually like a really big life hack to achieve this balance that is really necessary. It's important to realize like there's no one result from poker that should be so big that it defines you. You got to have continuous self-improvement and let that define you. For example, for me, like I'm an introvert just naturally. And, some of the things that I've been trying to improve on are just becoming more extroverted. And even when I started my channel and putting myself more out there, that was one of the things I thought I could improve on. And this would be a challenge. How can I play poker and at the same time improve in different areas of my life? Starting a channel, doing some social media and becoming an ambassador for poker, I think that really helped me grow. Now that I've done all that, I'm looking for other areas where I can improve. I moved to Asia. I'm in Taipei. For example, even something as simple as improving my Mandarin. I've been putting a lot of work in trying to improve my communication skills in Mandarin and to excel there so I can do more things out here, business-wise. And so I think I would encourage players to really look at their life and try to find areas where they can improve. By doing that, you're going to be able to naturally have more purpose. And so when things go bad in poker, it's really not going to sting as much because you have all these other positive steps forward that's happening.
And how would you recommend people prioritize specific things? There's so many things that you can improve in your life, whether it's like all different aspects of poker, maybe some personal things, other hobbies you're doing, stuff with your family, right? How do you prioritize?
It takes some organizing. Maybe you list it out and you figure out what's most important to you outside of poker. For me, I listed things out, whether it's the social part, whether it's trying to improve my language skills, communication. One of the things I put on is like fitness. I think that's a great way for everybody to kind of incorporate their lives because I think everybody can very quickly improve their life balance from just adding a little bit of fitness and working out into their daily schedule. And so that's one of the things that I put on the top recently, especially in the last year. And I'm probably in the best shape of my life right now, only because I've stepped back and I've played a lot less poker and I've been really hammering down on the fitness part. There's no days off for me. Yeah, I've been been lifting heavy and I've been doing cardio. And honestly, it's just been working wonders for my mental health. And I feel invincible if I step on a poker table right now. There's no beat on the table that could affect me mentally when physically you're setting your day off, on the right start. And so that's one thing that I would encourage. Like if you don't know where to start, just add a little bit of physical workout into your daily life. And then the other things that you want to do, you want to achieve, think heavily on that and prioritize where on the list, how important is that to you, and start from there. Okay, so the second solution, I would say, not solution, but one of the things the tips that I think would work for balance is it's really important having like a strong social circle. And whether that's in poker or not, for me personally, I found it difficult to cultivate real friendships within my immediate poker circle. So if you feel the same, whether it's because of competition with your peers or whether it's feelings of animosity or jealousy, any of these unhealthy feelings that naturally come from poker sometimes because it's such a competitive game, right? I would encourage you to look outside of your immediate poker circle and cultivate meaningful relationships outside of the game, whether it's with family members or friends that you've lost touch with, even with players that maybe play lower stakes than you or play different forms of poker and that are not in direct competition with you. I think it's really important to have those real friendships and to achieve that balance. Because I think with me, especially in the high stakes circles, it's really easy it's almost like a breeding ground for all those unhealthy feelings, the animosity. I think it's natural because of how competitive those games are. Then it's probably one of the worst places to look for real friends. So I think it's really important to really have a group of guys or girls that are genuinely looking after your best interest. They actually care about you. I'm not talking about like guys where there's like a mutual benefit and you're getting something and it's transactional. I think you can tell the difference. Yeah, it's really important to have that social circle. If you don't have that, I think it's definitely worth the time to invest in cultivating those friendships, reaching out to people and doing activities, doing healthy things together. You can even, like I said, with the working out, you can incorporate that together and foster some really meaningful relationships.
And I think this could be a difficult thing for a lot of poker players because poker can be all consuming, not only when you're playing, but because you're studying, you're trying to get better and you're networking with your poker friends to all get better together. And then as you're cultivating friendships outside of poker, that's going to take some of your time away. And all of a sudden it becomes like this balancing act of not shutting out other side because then your non-poker friends might get disappointed, right? If they don't see you. So how do you find that balance of being able to spend time with both worlds?
It's not easy. It's not easy, especially for me, like, easier said than done. I'm preaching all these things, and these are all the mistakes that I've realized that I had to go through and really strive to work towards, because like you said, it's when, especially like when you're losing and, there's games there or whether it's like tournaments or cash, you want to fire the next one. It's so easy to just disregard all the stuff that we're talking about here in this episode about balance and just want to win. Just think that will solve all the problems. I just need to win some and have some victories. I think it really takes a conscious effort on our part to be like, okay, let me take a step back and let me work on some areas outside of poker that are ultimately going to improve my mental state and that's going to help my results in poker. Like we brushed on an important topic here too, is when you play so much poker and there's no balance, for me, the game is just much less enjoyable. And I'm sure you, Derek, can also, play a lot of tournaments, right? And I just can't imagine the players that just fire, and then they just play a full schedule. They just bust and just keep registering the next one. Like it must be really tough, right?
And you're absolutely right that having a diminished mental state is going to affect your results, whether you want to admit it or not. Another question for you though, for the people who are making friends in poker, what type of people did you attract to in poker? Like what type of friends were you trying to keep in a more close circle?
Personally, for me right now, my closest friends have been the ones that are still in my life, are the ones that have been there during my toughest moments and the ones that might not necessarily have only been around when I started having some success in poker. So got people that I've known for a long time when I was playing really small stakes or, not everybody has that, especially if you're traveling for poker and you lose touch with guys that you used to know. So that's why I think it's important to make that effort to try to find activities outside of poker where you can foster and you can nurture those relationships with people. You can find common interests and things like that. Yeah, it's not easy. It's really not easy. I think there's so much, it's really easy to just get lost. And so, like I said, I want to talk about all this stuff realistically. I think just baby step is the way to go. It's not like overnight you're going to wake up, this light bulb is going to come on and you're going to be like, I'm going to do all these things and I'm going to be super positive. I'm going to play a tournament, bust out, and then I'm just going to leave and then go work out. That's not going to happen, right? So we got to be realistic, but I think baby steps is the way to go and making these little changes really goes a long way. I want to talk about one third solution that I think is probably one of the hardest ones to do, but it's probably one of the most effective for the balance with life and poker. And this is one that in the last year or so has really resonated with me more. Finding something else that's really meaningful to do, outside of poker. Of course, all the stuff that we talked about before, like working out and self-improvement, those are meaningful things. But I think there's something to be said about searching for something to do do every day that has real meaning to it. Because I think with poker, the reason why it's so easy to lose balance is because at the end of the day, your primary objective is very self-serving, right? You're trying to just beat everybody and trying to win all the money. And so I think naturally, the way the game is designed, without balance, it's very easy to become very miserable very easily. You know, some of the most miserable people I know are like some of the most successful poker players. It's so ironic. The reason is because they just lack life balance and they're not doing anything else meaningful in their lives. And some of the happiest players that I know are recreational players that lose all the time. But obviously, yeah, they can afford to lose, but I also think they have it down. They have family, they have a balanced life outside of the game. That's really the key. We as professionals should learn from those recreational players. I think it really comes down to balance.
Yeah, I think there's so much glorification of greatness, whether it's sports, whether it's poker, and the very best ones are the ones that are just in the gym all the time and commit everything and throw away everything else in their lives to succeed. And I think the last thing that you want to do is succeed so much, but then 10 years down the line, you have all these regrets about where your life has gone. At that point, it's too late. So you're absolutely right that you do need to take steps towards meaningful, balanced relationships. And you're right that it is baby steps. You're not going to fix this immediately. This is actually like a lifelong commitment to that like mindset, right?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. I think back to just playing too much and not having the balance. After a while, if you don't have anything else meaningful going on or actually actively trying to incorporate meaningful things to your life, the poker just starts to feel pointless and it feels like an endless cycle, especially when there's big monetary setbacks and you invested so much time, like you said, and into the game, and then you just feel like it was such a waste of time and it wasn't even fun. So then it's like, what's the point, right? If we're not having fun when we're playing poker, then it really takes away the enjoyment of it. It really is kind of pointless. Again, easier said than done in terms of like finding something meaningful. You know, we need to find something that's like, number one, is fulfilling, we're passionate about. Number two, solves a problem of some sort or like contributes or helps somebody. There's a lot of self-help books. Like, I don't want to preach too much, but I think there's a lot of good principles in these books. Like there's one by Jay Shetty. It's a really famous one called Think Like a Monk. I finished that book recently, and basically, long story short, this guy was he had a business degree. He's a normal dude. He had a corporate career, and then he went to live like a monk for a duration of time. And he shares what he learned in this journey. One of the biggest takeaways was he talks about our energy as human beings. We're naturally wired for service, and so when we do things that are meaningful and helps others, it increases our joy and meaning in our life. Kind of goes against the complete opposite of poker, which is very self-serving, beneficial, and it pays off to be self-serving in poker, right? It's really hard to find that balance. Obviously when you play poker, yeah, you got to be cutthroat. You got to go for the money. You got to go for the throw, right? But outside of poker, I think is where you can have that separation and you can start to incorporate little elements of these things. I'm not saying like go be a monk, right? But you can, yeah, shave your head. No, but you can start with little daily simple actions, whether it's just being a good friend to somebody, mentoring people without any expectation of anything in return. I think all this counts, right? Because now you feel like you're doing something positive. I think that's going to be a lot more fulfilling than just every day waking up, playing poker, trying to figure out how to get all the chips. And at the end of the day, is that it?
Was there some sort of inflection point in your poker career where you started thinking about these things? Did like a specific event happen, or was it sort of a slow realization that, hey, I'm not living a healthy life?
I think it was kind of a gradual epiphany, a gradual realization. Probably a lot of it has to do with aging, I think naturally as we get older, we start questioning like what else is there? Especially, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think one has some amount of success in the game. They start looking for more. It's normal, right? It's like the hierarchy of needs. Once you have your basic needs met, then you start looking for more down the pyramid, right? And so in poker, it works kind of the same. Once you attain some level of monetary success, then you start thinking, what else do I want in life? How else do I want to spend my time and my days as they are numbered now, and that's part of the reason why I've really started to think outside the box in terms of other things I can do. And
yeah, for the younger players out there, listen to the OGs because we know what we're talking about. We've been in it for a long time, and now, we're kind of looking back and wishing we could do all these things differently.
So I think like to close this, I hope this wasn't too pessimistic or negative for players, especially newer players that are trying to come into the game and they love the game, they're passionate, they're excited. 100%, I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from playing. In fact, it's the opposite. I highly encourage poker players to go all out and to go all in on poker, especially if you love the game and just keep improving, But at the same time, it's really important to try to have balance outside of poker. And if that means that you need to keep poker as just a recreational hobby, you got to be honest with yourself and just keep it as a hobby. Because like I said, some of the happiest players I know are all the players that have a full life outside of the game and they actively do other things. I think it's important for players to love poker without the game end up owning them. So
yeah, it sounds like your recommendation is that, whatever it is that you're working on, commit to it. as hard as you can. So when you're playing poker, commit to that, play hard, but then find time to do other stuff in your life. And at that point, commit time to your family, commit time to your friends, commit time to your other hobbies, and just go all in on that. But just make sure that you are balancing all of that together. This is fantastic, fantastic advice for everyone. So thanks so much, Andy, for coming on the show. This was amazing. Love to have you back on to talk about this stuff more, hear more about your adventures over there in Taipei.
Thanks, Derek. Thanks for having me.